Hello and a very warm welcome to this week's Reiki Revolution YouTube show. And let's see how much of a revolution this is today. I'm so pleased that quite a few people are here already. It's just fabulous to be here once a week. I just can't believe it's already been a week since last Tuesday. I don't know what's wrong with the time at the moment, but something is racing. It's very odd. But yes, I'm so pleased that you're here. Hello, thank you for saying hi. And let's just wait for a few more moments to see if there are more people tuning in, and I can take this opportunity to just switch off my email notifications, which is useful because I always think it's bing, and I wonder what this is. It's the emails coming in while I'm chatting away, and that's not very professional. But then I'm still amazed how professional this whole thing is, and that we can actually connect on these devices on the internet. You can see me, I can, well, at least read your names and I know that you're here. And I'm just so excited. Wonderful. So thank you, all the regulars, for being here again. And I know that so many people are watching the shows afterwards. And I'm really quite pleased that more and more people seem to look at the keywords and therefore find us online as well when they're looking for certain aspects to do with Reiki, to do with complementary therapies, spirituality, healing, whatever they are looking for. And this is why today I came up with this slightly cheeky headline: Are there contraindications for Reiki? And of course, there are none. So we could basically stop the show right here, the broadcast right here. But it's really quite funny. We all know that there are no contraindications, and yet when it comes to some very serious illnesses, some people who have been chronically ill, some people maybe who are particularly close to us or dear to us, well, so often people still think, well, are there really no contraindications? So today is a little bit about the really. Are there really no contraindications? And the answer to that also is very clear. There are really no contraindications. But let's just go a little bit further into that. What I normally do in my Reiki 1 courses, and then this is just repeated again and again, is answering these two questions. First of all, who can be treated with Reiki? And secondly, what can be treated with Reiki? And the first has a very clear answer. Everybody can be treated with Reiki. However, there's one however. So everybody can be treated no matter how old they are, no matter how ill they are, no matter whether they believe in Reiki or not. The only thing that we need to consider is, or make sure, is that people give their consent. So as long people give their consent to receiving a Reiki treatment, we can treat everybody. If it's children, then we would need the consent of the parents. But that is basically it. I mean, it is obvious. But then again, so often we would just love to give a Reiki treatment to somebody really close to us, and they don't want it. So what can we do? We simply cannot give them Reiki against their will. We can't even send them a distant treatment against their will. That just wouldn't be right. What I tend to find is that most people don't really wouldn't really accept a Reiki treatment. They just don't believe in it. They think it's just not going to work. So nobody has to believe in Reiki in order to work. And I think this is so much fun to give Reiki to people who don't believe in Reiki, and they will then feel the results. So even if people don't believe in Reiki, they can have Reiki. But sometimes people just, for some odd reason, are afraid or don't really want that. They feel it's a waste of time. So if you really, really want to give them a Reiki treatment, make it about you. Just say, well, I would just love to hear your feedback. Or say, well, I am in the middle of working on case studies. Would you mind doing this for me and being one of my case studies just for half an hour, just to see how it works? But if somebody still doesn't want a Reiki treatment, there isn't much we can do, as sad as it is. Hopefully, at some stage, they will change their mind. Of course, if they are seriously ill, if they're in pain, then they may be more open to trying it out. But that is the only exception. Apart from people who don't want a Reiki treatment, everybody can receive a Reiki treatment. And so we never need to think twice if somebody asks us for a Reiki treatment. The second question, of course, is a bit more complicated. What can be treated? And first of all, the answer is everything can be treated with Reiki. But that does not mean that we can guarantee a certain outcome. I would pretty much be able to guarantee that people will feel better after a Reiki treatment, but I still cannot guarantee whether they heal, how much they will heal, how much time it will need. This is just something that is very individual. That's got to do with their condition, with the life path to a certain degree as well. But everything can be treated with Reiki. There are absolutely no exceptions. So if somebody has a pacemaker, of course they can have a Reiki treatment. Do we really believe that the National Health Service in the UK, that over 800 hospitals in the US would expose their patients to Reiki practitioners if there was even the slightest doubt whether Reiki was completely safe? Even when we look at the insurance premium to be insured as a Reiki practitioner, it's so low. I don't think there has ever been any claim, certainly not any successful claim, with regards to Reiki going wrong. So this simply does not happen. So we can completely rest assured Reiki is absolutely safe. In fact, we just had a workshop, Reiki in the National Health Service, anatomy and physiology for Reiki practitioners at the weekend in London. And the lady who was running it, Anne-Marie Karatu, the chair of the UK Reiki Federation, she has been working in hospitals. And she said when she works in intensive care units, it is just extraordinary to look at the screens, to look at the monitors, and to see everything evening out, regulating the heartbeat. Everything is getting closer to where it should be. The body functions better when it has Reiki. So, of course, this is the same with a pacemaker. It would never do anything to interfere with this. Often the question is, so what if people are on medication? And there is indeed something we need to consider. And this is that indeed, again, Reiki tends to regulate how the body works. It calms things down. It evens things out. It supports the body in its natural functioning. So that may mean that if somebody gets regular Reiki treatments over an extended period, they might, and I just say that very carefully, they might need less medication than initially prescribed. We are absolutely not allowed as a Reiki practitioner to suggest that they reduce their medication, but we should advise them at some stage to check in with their medical professionals to make sure that they're still on the right amount of medication. And it's just extraordinary to see that some people can even reduce their medication, but that never should or must happen at the suggestion of the Reiki practitioner. It is something that needs to be discussed with their medical professionals. But I'm only saying that because the same even applies in hospital settings. So in hospital settings, when people receive Reiki treatments, they often need less painkillers. They often need less medication. In fact, they are healing more quickly. And therefore, we can be completely assured that Reiki is absolutely safe in every respect. But we should advise people to double check their level of medication at some stage. There is this weird myth on the internet that when somebody has got a fracture, we shouldn't give them Reiki. It might heal too quickly. Well, quite frankly, Reiki is amazing, but I read that in a book at some stage. Reiki is not super glue. So no, it doesn't heal straight away. Hopefully the pain will be reduced. But of course, we can give them Reiki straight away for the pain, for the shock, for the wound. But make sure that people then, as quickly as possible, see a medical professional. And this is the point. So there are no contraindications when it comes to Reiki, but there are some cautions. And the caution is, if it's obvious that somebody needs a medical intervention, if somebody has got a big open wound. I mean, if somebody's got a little cut in the kitchen on the finger, so then of course we would give them Reiki, and I'm sure the bleeding will stop quite soon and it will heal much more quickly. But if they cut the finger off, if they have a really deep wound, then of course we need to make sure that they get to emergency services as soon as possible. We need to call an ambulance. We need to call medical help. We need to make sure that they get there. So if somebody has got an accident and is lying on the road, of course, the first thing I would do is give them Reiki, probably with one hand, and with the other, I would just phone an ambulance. So Reiki must never be given instead of a conventional medical treatment when it is obvious that the person needs such a treatment. I had that, well, now quite a few years ago. I had this wardrobe, an IKEA wardrobe, and I wanted to move it from one room to the other, but it was too big, so I dismantled it. I don't know if you have ever tried to dismantle an IKEA wardrobe. It is possible, but it's quite an act. I was very proud that I eventually managed to dismantle it, move it to the room next door, and set it up there again. But I used a chisel to take off the back, and suddenly the chisel ended up in my hand. And I said, "Mom, I'm bleeding." And she said, "Should I give it some Reiki?" And I said, no, I mean, you can, but I think we need to go somewhere. So it was really, really deep. So I put a towel in there and held it and pressed it against it. And I got an Uber and we went to the emergency medical unit at the next hospital, where I think we waited for 3 hours. It was crazy. Obviously, it was a wound, but it wasn't anything that major. So we are waiting and waiting and waiting. And of course, the whole time we are waiting there, I gave it Reiki, and my mom sitting next to me was sending me Reiki as well. So when I finally got to see a doctor, I took this towel off, and there was this little cut. There was no bleeding anymore. And I was so embarrassed. I said, well, to be honest, it was so deep and it really hurt. And it bled like crazy. And I really felt I needed to come here. And well, the doctor had a careful look and said, well, to be honest, you just missed a tendon. So yes, it could have been really nasty. You are very lucky, but it is extremely deep and we are going to glue it and that should all be okay. And we make sure that it's also not getting inflamed. So I credit Reiki with this incredible healing, but it was indeed helpful and it was important to go to see a doctor. So this is something we must always do, to seek professional medical help when it is obvious, when somebody is getting bright red, when somebody has got a huge rash, when somebody is feeling really sick, is vomiting, is in acute extreme pain. Of course, give them Reiki straight away, but at the same time, make sure to call medical professional help. This is all we need to do. So it's not a contraindication whatsoever, rather the opposite. Reiki is always very, very useful. And yet we need to make sure that there are times, there are situations when Reiki should not be used as the only kind of medical complementary alternative help. Of course, it is complementary because it can complement any traditional intervention, any traditional medical treatment. And of course, again, this is not a contraindication, but when we give Reiki, we always have the choice between hands-on and hands-off. And of course, if somebody has got a skin condition, if there is a swelling, if there is pain, we must never even lightly touch the body. Even if they are fully clothed, still we wouldn't touch the body. We would just keep the hands away from the body. Again, no contraindication, but just a caution, just some advice. And yes, sometimes there are also these questions. So what if somebody is very seriously ill? What if somebody has cancer in a late stage? Well, no contraindication. Just give them Reiki as much as possible. Of course, we cannot, as I mentioned, guarantee a certain outcome. But what I would go as far as saying we can pretty much guarantee that Reiki will be of help. And this may range from pain reduction to psychologically dealing with the problem, to finding more inner peace, to sleeping better, to reducing the stress levels that come with this condition, to indeed really working on the body's healing response and really speeding up the healing response. There have been some tests with open wounds when you give Reiki where negative ions could be measured in higher numbers. So that means that the healing abilities of the body are really stimulated. So again, and I say that again and again, no contraindications, just some things to consider, just some cautions, of course, because we are working with a person with some medical problems. But that is basically it. We can give Reiki to anybody and everybody. We never have to think twice. Of course, Reiki does have side effects. And the side effects can be quite severe. But nobody can sue us for these side effects or hold us responsible. If somebody feels a spiritual opening, if somebody looks at life in a different way, I can feel energy. The energy has a healing effect. Where is this from? They may feel a connection. They may see colors even though their eyes are closed. They may feel as if they were, well, lifted. Some people say they feel like floating when they get a Reiki treatment. They feel not completely just left on their own. They feel there is something out there. There's a benevolent force. They may even, well, get a message. They may get an image. They may get some ideas in their mind. So they may really have a deep spiritual opening. They may look at what they are struggling with in a different way. They may release emotions, and they may feel more at ease, more peaceful. They may be able to let go something traumatic they have been holding on for a long time. All these are side effects, but they are just very, very positive. They are on a different level. And this makes Reiki so incredibly special as a complementary therapy. Reiki, as far as I am aware, is the only complementary therapy that does not use any physical intervention, and therefore it is the only complementary therapy in the world that can scientifically and through our own experience be described as having absolutely no contraindications. So I hope that wasn't too much of a barrage of excitement. And it really is in there, because in the UK, for instance, the National Health Service is opening up more and more to Reiki as a complementary therapy and being used in hospitals, in hospices, and even in private practice, in GP practices, family doctor practices. So there's a huge, huge opening, and it's amazing to, well, have this momentum for Reiki. And of course, it doesn't stay there. Once we start feeling the change that Reiki brings, we look at life in a different way. And the deeper level of healing, the spiritual aspect, the connection is something that is, well, created, is experienced, and it often takes us on a journey of spiritual development and looking at life in a different way. And I do still feel that the more people have these experiences, and the more people then realize that when they find this individual connection to the universe, to higher levels, to the divine, whatever we want to call it, this can have such a knock-on effect. And we can really bring more and more of this love, of this awareness. We are just oozing this higher vibrations, and we can bring more and more of that into the world, and we can create a better world. Talking about which, I'm so pleased Venetia is here tonight. Venetia David is the Senior Director of Alternatives in London, and they have the most amazing talks and workshops and events about all things spiritual, looking at our innate divinity, our different ways to open up to who we really are and bring that into the world, just from all different angles and in different ways, with the awareness that every spiritual path can only ever lead to the same goal, because there are no other goals other than realizing we are a spirit in a body, we are an eternal being, and we are all connected. And this is so amazing. So if you want to find out more, I believe it's Reiki, what's it called? It's alternatives.org.uk, I believe, is the website, and there are just fascinating things on there. Um, at the Reiki Academy in London, we are working on more offerings at the moment as well. So if you are in and around London, we are having a Reiki and mediumship workshop coming up, which is very exciting because so many people really open up to receiving messages. They're feeling connection. They feel somehow there is a spiritual opening, and often they don't really know what their special gifts are, what their abilities are to channel messages and to bring something across. We all have these abilities, but we all have that in different ways, and that's what we are exploring. And I have quite fascinatingly worked with Reiki and crystals for a while now, and I'm working on a new online course for that, which is really exciting. I'm filming it at the moment, and it's just fascinating to realize how Reiki can work with crystals. So there's a lot to come. And it's always Reiki for me at the very heart of it. This beautiful connection and the tangibility of what we can feel in our hands is just absolutely amazing. So, yes, I think this is where I wanted to get this evening. Just looking if there is something, if there are any questions. Let me just see some. Yes, there is the question again, whether we may need to have second thoughts when somebody has got Reiki. Sorry, when somebody has got cancer. Absolutely not, not at all, not whatsoever. It is completely and utterly safe. In fact, the NHS, the National Health Service in the UK, allows Reiki practitioners to go into cancer wards and give Reiki treatments. So I think this really should leave us rest completely reassured. There are absolutely no problems, no matter what a person is suffering from. And let's hope that more and more people are learning Reiki, and that we feel more and more momentum to really give more Reiki treatments and to bring more Reiki into the world. The world so needs that. We need to start somewhere, and what better way to start with healing, to bring more healing into the world, and hopefully not change the people's bodies, the people's conditions, but people's minds. When we look into the world, I mean, I was about to say, has it ever been more important? Well, I mean, we have gone through so many difficult times over the years, over the decades, over the centuries and millennia, and yet we still don't seem to have learned. And it's just extraordinary, terrible what's going on in the world. And we really need to do our bit to change that and make the world a better place. And yes, Reiki is such a wonderful tool for that. And of course, we are all also often going through difficult times. We need help. We need something to hold on to. And it's so beautiful that we can do these two things with Reiki. We can give Reiki to ourselves, but we can also give Reiki to others. And we can do that in a Reiki share. And I would like to invite you to join everybody who is live here now and everybody who will join on a replay at a later stage for this Reiki share. So when you're ready, just bring your hands together for a moment and just connect to Reiki and really wait until you feel the connection. If you've learned Reiki 2, you can use the connection, the distance symbol, just two different names for the same symbol, and then set your intention to connect with everybody on this Reiki share. And then just feel the connection with everybody. Feel the flow of Reiki, and then just lean back, relax, and just allow Reiki to work within you on all aspects of your life. Whatever you're struggling with at present, you may even want to set an intention about something in particular for Reiki to work on. And at the same time, just feel the flow of Reiki to everybody else. Feel the connection with everybody else. just really become aware of how you feel. The peace, the love, the connection. And then you can bring your hands back together, take a moment to thank Reiki, and come back into the here and now. And just a few moments of this Reiki share. You can even replay it and see if you feel you want to stay in this a little bit longer. But of course, Reiki continues working as well. And I am just so pleased that we had this fabulous time together. I look forward to seeing you all again. If you have any questions, if you want to pose any questions, then by all means, send me an email and I'll see whether we can cover that or maybe build a whole show, a whole YouTube broadcast around that. And I was just looking at a question that was posted here, and apparently there was this kind of myth or this fear that Reiki may even increase any cell growth of cancerous, of negative cells in the body. Well, when I did the tests on water in Switzerland a few years ago, of course, it was tap water. So there was still a certain degree of pollution. And what did Reiki do? It did not increase the pollution. It reduced it. It stimulated the body's self-healing abilities. So no, Reiki will never stimulate the growth of something negative. It will always work on the healing, on the best outcome for the person. And this is what I trust so wholeheartedly. There is scientific evidence for that, and there are hundreds of thousands, probably millions and millions of experiences all over the world that come to exactly the same conclusion. Reiki will always bring out the best. Reiki will always bring the healing in the body. It will never do anything detrimental. And this is why it is so successful and worldwide accepted as a complementary therapy. So thank you so much for joining, and have a wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are in the world. A wonderful rest of the day and rest of the week. And I look forward to seeing you again next week.